Hello, welcome back. Sorry it took so long. I should have done this in the beginning, but I'm going to do it now because I still have 5 more of these rising signs to do. And because I keep repeating the same information over and over again in terms of the basic of like what a rising sign is, how it affects the chart, things like that. I wanted to just kind of hop on here and just do like a brief this is what's going on, this is this. So that way, once I do these videos, I could just say, hey, as of right now, I'm focusing on Pisces and Aries. We have right now in Aries, we have Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which is something that you have to live with. You can't fix it. So it's like, think of it as like something that you have to learn to coexist with. It's got your sun, which is like your ego, which is where you're aiming for. It's got Saturn, which is the planet of lessons and karma. We also currently have Mars, which is the mode of operation, especially around discourse, like how do you tackle problems. We have Neptune, the planet of illusion, and we're about to get Mercury, which is the planet of communication. And then the moon is going to be coming here for the new moon on the 16th. So as of that point, we're going to have 7 things in Aries. So this is like a big deal. So these readings are about what to expect with the 7th and 8th, not 7th and 8th. I'm so sorry. With this Pisces and Aries. So I'm doing rising signs. And the reason why I'm doing rising signs, so instead of taking my chart off the wall, I figured I would just do like a quick these are all, think of these as each of the houses. So the planets always fall in the same way. So like the zodiacs, when I say the planets, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The zodiacs all fall in the same way. They all go in the same pattern, but your rising sign, which is different than your sun sign. So your sun's like your ego, your soul. Think of it like that, like the core, the essence, the je ne sais quoi of who you are. But your rising is how you present to the world. For me personally, rising sign is incredibly important because I have a huge stellium in Gemini, but the way that people describe Geminis, it never sat well with me. Like I'm like, well, yeah, but not really. Like certain aspects, but not, it just didn't feel right. And then I learned about a rising sign. I'm a Virgo rising. I was like, boom, there it is. Da, 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 da. But why a rising versus your sun sign? So in the chart, like I said, the zodiacs all go the same way, but depending upon where you're born, which is perspective. So this is why you need your time and your place of birth, because the sun, as you know, rises and sets, it moves to the sky. So when you're born, at the time that you're born, wherever that sun is in relation to the horizon is your rising sign. That changes every 2 hours. But the biggest thing is that your rising sign then kicks off your houses. So for instance, like I said, so like generally the first house, so going from youngest to oldest in terms of zodiacs. So the first one being Aries, last one being Pisces. So like, just think of it like that. 12 houses, 12 zodiacs. And at the bare form, each one of those houses is ruled by one of those zodiacs. So for instance, I'm a Virgo rising. So my first house is Virgo. I'm trying to make this as simplistic as possible. But the first one's Aries. The second one is Taurus. Third one's Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and ending with Pisces. Pisces being the most intuitive, the most spiritual, and the most advanced because it is technically the oldest zodiac sign. So, like I said, so whatever your rising sign is, then kicks off these houses because this wheel can like turn essentially. Like I said, my first house, it's Virgo, and then it goes so on and so forth. So then my second house is Libra. Then my third house is Scorpio, fourth house is Sagittarius, so on and so forth. Without knowing your rising sign, so the time of birth as well as the location, you can't know what those houses are, unfortunately. So like you can probably figure it out, truth be told, by the themes that pop up. If you're listening to astrology, it doesn't matter that they say sun, moon, or rising, because your sun can be anywhere in this chart, but your rising's always in the first house. That stays. And I use whole sign too. Normally when you look at like AstroSeek, Astro Cafe, whatever the case may be. So for instance, I'm Virgo, but I'm like the 28th degree. It's like, okay, your first house is ruled by Virgo, and then it like encompasses almost all of Libra. So it's like Libra doesn't end up ruling any of my houses. But then I have my 12th house is also ruled by Virgo because the way that it splits over here, it's like I end up with 4 or houses that are ruled by 2 signs. And I don't find it to be the most accurate. That's just myself personally. Whole sign seems to resonate with both what I feel spiritually as well as what my chart has been broken down. So that's the process I use. And more than likely, if you're listening to astrology and TikTok, they're doing whole sign as well for simplicity factors. So instead of being like, well, up to this degree, because that can be anywhere in any way. Like I said, I'm at the ass end of Virgo, but yet my 12th and first house is ruled by that, and it's not really that much sense. So Virgo is my entire first house. Like I said, simplicity's sake. Astrology, it doesn't matter if they say sun, moon, or rising, they are basing it off of your house. They are assuming it is a rising because it's the easiest way to tell you what themes you're going to be dealing with in these houses, because that is literally what's happening. So the houses give you the theme of what's going on, and then the different planets that you have in each of them will give you the flavor of what to expect there. So for instance, and I want to run down what each house is, just like I said, this is just kind of like a basic info, so that way I don't have to say this 5 more times, because I know I'm screwing up. I'm giving different information and stuff, and it's like, did I already say that? Did I not say that? Anyways, so the first house is the house of self. The second house is the house of possessions and other people's money. The third house is the house of communication. Fourth house being home and family. Fifth house being creativity and pleasure. Sixth house is work and health. Seventh house is relationships. Eighth house is transformations. Ninth house is philosophy and higher learning. 10th house is career, public image. 11th house is hopes and goals. And the 12th house is spirituality and secrets. So as I said before, a lot of things that a lot of people, I don't even know where the fuck that came from. Hair? Okay, yeah, that was a hair that was on my plant. Anyways, that looked way worse than what it was. So again, synastry charts, which is an overlay. So like your house is like this. When you do a synastry chart, it'll give you an extra band on the outside, just kind of lining up with the zodiacs themselves. And again, it'll kind of turn. So it's the overlap of what you've got, because that's going to tell you what aspects, how you guys will work together. And again, depending upon where it is in the house, these are either going to be positive traits or ones that you're going to find difficult. Notoriously difficult synastry is 12th house and 8th house synastry. So either somebody like your partner, and this could be anybody, but normally people like to do significant others. But you can do it with siblings, you can do it with parents, you can do it with anybody, children, coworkers, to see kind of what's going on there. Like, because again, we got a house of communication. So how is it that you're communicating with your coworkers? How are your coworkers communicating with you or your boss or something like that? So that's why you would use a street chart. So 12th house, 8th house is notoriously incredibly difficult. And the reason being, think of the 8th and 12th as kind of similar and yet a little different. So the 8th house is the house of transformation. It's also, I would say, it's the occult. So in my opinion, based off of not being an astrologer, but being based off of an enthusiast who has done a bunch of research into this over the course of many years and trying to identify myself, honestly. That's honestly what I did. And that's the best way to learn astrology, is to learn your own chart and what it is there, and then you can start applying it to other things. So the 8th house is the house of transformation. It's the occult. It's shared resources. It's intimacy. It's sexuality. It's, to me, the 8th house, think of it as more like, I know it's not totally accurate, but like I think of it as more like, if the 12th house is spirituality, meaning your connection to the divine, the 8th house to me is more about using tools. So I would say that's more like witchcraft, like I said, occult, things of that nature, like more of a intentional tools being used kind of thing, intentional things of that nature. Like I said, it's more of a, you're actively seeking a connection, whereas the 12th house, even not in synastry, but just in general, where the 12th house is a house of spirituality and connection to the divine. So that's kind of how I look at it. So the 8th house is inheritance, it's death. Think of it as things that are done behind closed doors. 8th house is that, whereas the 12th house is like secrets, it's blind side. If you have personal planets in the 12th house, it is notoriously difficult to do things like that. So like if you have, I'm trying to think of one, I just did one, so I'm trying not to use the exact specific ones. So let's say you had Saturn in your 12th house. So, like, you probably don't learn your lesson very well. So you probably repeat patterns. You're not really picking up on that, but you're not sure why you're not getting results. Think of it like that. So it's like it's your blind side, so you don't see it. So if you have any plans in the 12th house, this is notoriously difficult for yourself. But if you have synastry with other people, meaning their planets fall in your 12th house, it's the same thing. People aren't communicating their feelings. People aren't, you know, if you've got Neptune there, that's illusion. Like, I mean, yes, that's a spiritual placement because of like illusion, dreams, things of that nature. But also, it can also say, like, you don't know where you stand with somebody at any given time. Think of it like that. So if the 12th house is secrets, blind side, spirituality, the 8th house is things done behind closed doors that will come to light. As a Virgo rising, Aries is my 8th house. So I'm actually not going to be surprised and basically buckling up for things like my father passing away with Saturn there. Saturn's the old man. He's lessons and things like that, but Saturn represents the father, whereas the moon represents the mother. So if you have your moon in Aries kind of thing, like buckle up for a mother figure of some sort, may not necessarily be your mother, but a mother figure of some sort, like either removing themselves from your life, moving, or passing away. I hate to say it, but it's like that would not be like a far-fetched thing. I'm fully preparing for that. But yeah, so that's that. Like a good overlap would be 7th house, which is relationships. A good synastry that would be that. 11th house, hopes and goals. That's another good synastry to have with somebody. So there's good synastry that you really want to look at. Or even like 3rd house, communication. There's a lot more. 4th house. 5th house, like there's a lot more good than bad. So just remember that. We have a tendency to focus on the negative where we should look at the entire big picture. Wanted like a breakdown of synastry or of your astrology chart or anything of that nature, I highly, highly, highly recommend an astrologer. I am not an astrologer. I can only give you like my opinion based off of what I know, but I don't market that as being a service because I don't think that that's a fair service to provide because I'm just not well versed. Like, I mean, it's not that I'm not well versed, but not enough to be like, here's paid service. It's just, there are way better ones. Fate with Fati, Fate, Withfati. Highly, highly, highly recommend her. She knows what she's doing. She takes her time. She's very responsive and her pricing is amazing. So I cannot stress that enough. If you really want an astrology breakdown, please see her. She's way better at this than I am. But that being said, I really want to kind of let you know why am I choosing rising signs. And I didn't say it before, but when you're listening to astrology on TikTok, it doesn't matter, or any place, even your horoscope. If you're reading about your horoscope, you really do for most accurate, unless of course your sun happens to fall into whatever house it is that there's discussing, because it very well could. You want to listen for your rising sign, even though they don't say it. It's because that's what they're doing, is they're basing it off of the houses, and it makes a lot of sense because, like I said, those are the themes. Planet give it the focus, but always listen for your rising sign for astrology for most accuracy, because that's what they're doing, is they're literally looking at the houses and not necessarily the planets. And that's why a rising sign is so important. And that's why you also need your time of birth as well as where you were born in order to get that accuracy. But yeah, I mean, so that's it. And again, if you don't have that, there are plenty of people who are adopted or don't know their time of birth. You can still get a chart reading based off of that, but they're going to just be able to tell you like, hey, you've got, Mercury in Libra and that's this kind of thing. Things like that. So they can still do that, but they can't finite it by saying, this is in your house of this. So yeah, so definitely still worth a shot. I implore everybody to learn astrology. I think it's super important if for no other reason other than to get to know yourself. So that's why I'm doing this. I just want to do this video to explain it so I don't have to do it a 5th time and fuck up. So from this point forward, I'm just going to be like, hey, my next up is Libra rising. So that's going to be focused on Pisces and Aries, which happens to be the 6th and 7th house. So, and I'll take it from there. And I've got like 5 more of these to do. So at least now I have that basis. So thank you for understanding. Thank you for sticking with me. I do have a bunch of videos I have to post, including finishing out the series. I started this because I feel as though it was very important, but for one reason or another, including illness, I have just lagged. So thank you very much. I ask a lot of you as viewers and subscribers in terms of hanging with me in terms of doing these things. And I thought now that I didn't have a full-time gig, it would be easier. And Lord in heaven knows it is not easier. If anything, it feels like even less time because, got the house going and shit, stuff like that. So I'm trying to do some of those kinds of upkeep things. And it's spring and I'm trying to be outside and I'm trying to split time. Obviously, I still have readings that I do and I have a husband. So, he demands time and as he should, as my partner should, just like I do. So, thank you and on with the show.